Speaking out in support of former President Trump, Somali voters in Minnesota come forward to support and vote for conservative candidates. Some of the reasons why, next. Salman Fiqy is my guest. Salman, good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and good to see you too.
You are a small Minnesota business owner who lives in Burnsville. You ran recently in the Republican primary for a seat in the state house. We saw you, though, just recently, front and center, behind former President Trump's right shoulder at a rally in St. Cloud. But why are you supporting Trump this time around? And I guess doing so very publicly, I might add.
It's a long conclusion that we arrived to. Due to many issues, the reason why I supported, come out and supported soon to be President Donald Trump is due to some issues. One of the issues, some of the issues are education issues, economic issues, safety, um, um, and many other issues. So that made me come out as a Republican Party and support Mr. Donald Trump.
I know many people certainly noticed you in the stands that night. How have they reacted since?
The reaction was very positive, honestly, very positive among the Somali community, and because this feelings of the feeling of people switching from Democratic Party to a Republican Party resonates with a lot of people, a lot of Somali voters, and some of them, of course, were kind of a little bit unhappy about it, but the overwhelming majority of the Somali community were very happy about it and reacted really positively towards it.
Salman, you came to Minnesota 15 years ago as a Democrat. What's changed for you in that time?
When I came to the country, I didn't know nothing about the political landscape, the U.S. Political landscape, and I came in an era where President Barack Obama was really popular, and people were chanting change, and so I joined. I was like, okay, well, let's see the change, where the change is going to lead us. And so after 8 years of his reign, we ended up in really a bad situation in terms of like education and how the um, uh, decency and we end up in really bad situation. And also coming from a Muslim faith, we tend to be very conservative people, and some of the issues we cannot really uh, uh, blind eye ignore. We cannot ignore some of the issues, and that's one of the reasons we actually kind of the trajectory started then to becoming more and more conservative.
Do you worry about any backlash as a business owner, as you've talked about, personally, professionally?
Not really, because I know exactly why I'm supporting, I'm supporting what I'm supporting right now, why I switched to Republican Party, for the values and the principles that they stand for, and we have shared values and interest with the Republican Party, and that's why we support it. I don't really care about the backlash. There's, of course, people would accuse the Republican Party as or paint the Republican Party as a kind of a really racist or something, but is contrary to that claim, and is very welcoming. Ever since I joined the party, it was very welcoming, very warm, loving. So, and I think that kind of rhetoric was used uh, in a political way, to the point where people start perceiving Republican Party as a racist Republican, but it's not, totally not. It's a major, major, major party in the U.S., and that major party cannot be racist towards its own citizens, and people really need to understand that. Yes, they have values, policies. People can disagree on it, but to paint the picture that a Republican Party is a racist state is absolutely untrue and far, far from the truth.
Minnesota has the largest Somali population in the U.S., about 90,000. And I asked Trump during that interview that I was able to do with him for Alpha News why it seems that more and more Somalis are supporting him. And he said that he believes it comes down to safety, as you mentioned as well. Like so many other Americans, they want to be safe. What's your perspective there?
Well, safety is one of the major concern of the Somali community, because if we look back at what happened in 2020, so the riot happened in Lake Street, and Lake Street tend to be residential, or where Somali population have businesses or and reside in. And many businesses went out of business because of the riots, and uh, the business activities have declined, as you may know, um, and that one of the reasons that safety was an issue. And also, there was this one guy I know. This one guy have bought a restaurant, right? And that restaurant, he bought it. He paid a hefty amount of money to get the business started. But in the parking lot was there's a lot of homelessness, and encampment was in his parking space. So he went to the city to clear that, and they said we cannot do nothing about it. And went to the police station, said we cannot do nothing about it, and to the point where he had to pay over $20,000 to you know find a solution for his. So it's a problem that we face as a Somali community. Uh, as you may know, Somalis are very family oriented society, and this family oriented society always, they stick together, they move in a flock, they watch for one another, they want their kids to go uh, outside the track that actually drawn for them in terms of like getting ahead in life. But the environment is not really helping in that regard. The environment is not helping, from the drug influx to the lack of safety. And so, yeah, it tends a lot of people to fall in that kind of trap and be outlaws and become outlaws. Yeah.
Along with safety, education, I know, has been an important factor. Are you worried about what's being taught in some Minnesota public schools?
Oh yes, education is one of the things that actually is with the major concern that to make the Somali community transition from Democratic Party to a Republican Party. Um, um, Here in Burnsville, there was a law that actually, the schools that actually passed a law where students cannot the parents cannot be notified whether their kids want to change gender or things like that. So when the Somali community here in Burnsville and Savage learned about this incident, we organized a mass protest against the school district, and to oppose that notion. Yes.
Yeah, we've done some reporting here at Alpha News about the same thing happening in the St. Louis Park School District. Somali families pushing back against the LGBTQ agenda, taking legal action to do so. And as you mentioned, happening in Burnsville and Savage, and really many districts across the state. And Alpha News has also heard, Salman, that many Somali families, because of this, they're moving away from Minnesota due to what's happening in schools. What's your perspective? What are you hearing there?
Yes, every circle, my immediate circle, it's true that many Somali families are losing confidence in school system in Minnesota due to the LGBTQ agenda or the education curriculum that actually taught to the kids or indoctrinated to the kids. So a lot of people are there's a Islamic school, there's a charter school that actually in town, but it cannot uh, take the mass defection from school system to it cannot take it. So people are resorting to travel outside the country just uh, avoid to avoid their kids uh, uh, teaching to avoid their kids learning this kind of agendas, this kind of uh, curriculum.
Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and former President Trump have sparred a bit over the years. She's called him a racist, saying he's against all immigrants who look like me. Those were her words. But has her rhetoric, do you think, helped or hurt the Somali community in Minnesota?
Well, I think at first, Mr. Donald Trump rubbed the community the wrong way for that remark, and Ilhan Omar, as a politician, she used it to create. Further reinforce the narrative of, okay, paint a picture, the Republican Party is a racist party and all that, and she tapped into the people's emotion just to keep that crowd in that um, box. Unfortunately, people are starting realizing that, okay, and to that point, Somalis back in the days, I think they used to organize themselves politically by representation or by seeing other fellow Somalis in the arena, and that's how they support him. But I think now the trend has changed, where people are now starting to organize themselves politically based on real concrete issues, and that actually doesn't resonate with what Ilhan Omar stands for or the Democratic Party, and that's why we're seeing that mass defection from the Democratic Party to and also. Mosque as places of faith used to promote like this, used to promote being involved in politics and things like that. But now, since they realize that, oh, okay, supporting the Democratic Party come against the core value of being a Muslim, then now people start to uh, pushing the brake on advertising or promoting the Democratic Party within the religious places.
Fraud has been called an uncomfortable truth within the Somali community. Nearly 100 have been charged in Medicare fraud, feeding our future more. But why is that happening here in Minnesota? Do you worry that it creates resentment?
Well, I think to begin with, white collar crime happens everywhere, and I think the source of that it's personal greed, and I think many people who are actually involved in that case are actually were greedy to begin with, and that kind of behavior doesn't represent the Somali community. In fact, as a Somali community, we shun that kind of behavior to kind of defraud or misrepresent or commit that kind of action um, in the name of first being a Muslim and then second being a Somali. So this has no place in our community of frauding or deceiving or deception or um, being, being greedy. It doesn't have no um, place in our community. So, and whoever commits a crime will get the punishment. So we're a little bit worried about being painted as the whole community as fraudsters, but no, we actually should. There's many success stories within the Somali community as a business owners, as a in education sector, in very active members in the community. So I think we have to uh, shed light on that success story and not to paint like a perception out of what few people have committed.
Yeah, and I think we've learned through all of this that Minnesota's public programs, it seems, don't adequately guard against this organized frauds. There's been a lot of learning along the way there. But Salman, just before we go here, what are you doing? You know, we're down less than 100 days before the presidential election, but to change hearts and minds, and it sounds like you're sort of working to get out the vote in Minnesota for sure.
Well, actually, I'm really in it wholeheartedly to kind of inform the public about okay, what's good for them, how to organize themselves politically, and in a way there where it aligns with their values and principles. I'm very active in organizing a connection between harnessing a connection between the Somali population here in the South Metro with our Republican candidates and kind of introduce them to each other and have a great connection since we share many values and principles. And a few days ago, we met with faith leaders here in Burnsville. Like we organized a meeting between a few Republican candidates and faith leaders. Also, we actually organized a Somali Day festival over here that was held in Burnsville. We showed up with Republican candidates and we talked to the Somali people. And that's when they realized that, oh, we're missing out. And people were asking, it was like, where the hell have you guys been? We're actually waiting for you guys to show up. And then it's better to show up late than never show up, right? So we're showing up. So I'm kind of pushing that kind of pushing the Somali people to the edge. And I think one thing, people wanted someone to start the movement, and the domino effect will happen. So and it's true that people now are realizing to organize themselves based on real issues rather than feelings.
I love that. Where have you guys been? Salman Fiqy, thank you so much for joining me today and really appreciate your efforts. We'll be checking back in, I think, before the election for sure.
Thank you for having me, guys, and I appreciate the interview. You guys have a wonderful one.
You as well. That'll do it for this episode of Liz Collin Reports. We'll see you next time.